Good morning and welcome to the Maliha Desert, where I'm here to try out this new amazing Ram Baja edition. No, it isn't the Raptor, but it is a special edition built by local dealer Trading Enterprises. It's an example of what they can do and how far you can take this frankly nondescript truck. But now with all these additions, it's absolutely incredible in the sand. It's not cheap. You're looking at about 110,000 dirhams for the entire kit on top of the price of the regular car. But as you're about to see, it's really worth it, and it is, let's be honest, really cool looking. So as you can see, the regular bumper has been taken off. In fact, everything from the front end, the upper valance, everything is just gone and replaced with this fabricated bumper. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, because what this does is improve your approach angles. So the tire is the thing that hits the dunes first, not the car. Now, all of this, of course, is actually RTA approved because the dealer does it, and it does mean that you have a lot more clearance. However, it does mean that if you hit somebody with the Ram Baja, it could be very bad, so try to avoid doing that. As you can see under here as well, quite apart from this amazing bumper, which does have your number plate here, is that you have a lot of custom suspension. So all of this has been changed from a kit from the US called a company called Prodigy. So what they do is they replace, well, I'll show you, it's easier. So what is Prodigy? Well, they're a little company in California that makes racing suspension for racing trucks that do the Baja 1000, which is a very famous off-road race. So it's very different to the kind of off-roading we do here. It's a lot of really fast 100 miles per hour on the flat, foot to the floor kind of racing. It is very different to the kind of dunes we do here. But trucks are exceptionally well suited to that if you modify them correctly. So what Prodigy does is basically change a lot of things on the car, and that's what Trading Enterprises has fitted here. So there is the main shock, which has been upgraded to a 2.6-inch coilover with a reservoir. That's this thing here. All this basically does is hold extra oil so that the shock doesn't overheat, because these things run really hard, and the harder you run, the faster the speed, obviously the hotter the shock runs. And when the shock gets too hot, what you effectively do is lose shock because it doesn't work anymore. But to prevent that from being a problem, they fitted another shock, another 2.6-inch secondary shock here, and this holds another chunk of oil, and this is basically to take really huge impacts. So this can go in the sand at speeds of close to 100 miles per hour. To make sure that you can use all of that travel, the entire front end is completely different. You're looking at a new upper control arm, a new lower control arm, and pretty much everything in between. Needless to say, this doesn't necessarily mean the car is stock anymore. So there's a lot of cutting, grinding, welding, and if these things should scare you, well, they really shouldn't, because the dealer's doing it, and obviously they're trained professionals who know what they're doing. Now, to put all this power down, you need a lot more tire than a stock tire, and which is why you have a big 35-inch tire here. So this 35-inch tire, when deflated, gives you even more contact patch and allows it to spread the weight of this truck around. And to make sure that you can run really low pressures, there are special beadlock wheels from a company called Raceline. And to make that really simple, beadlock means that instead of a normal car where you run at about 15 psi, you can run this as low as 5 or 6. Although, to be honest, you don't need to. It's just a nice insurance thing to make sure the tire doesn't come off the rim, because you don't want to be jacking this thing up. So this suspension lifts the car and the front end about 3 inches front and back, and the back you'll see a similar sort of thing. But when you put a bigger tire, what the problem then becomes is that when the tire goes up as you hit dunes, it'll just hit the fender. So guess what? We've changed the fender, and this is actually a completely new fiberglass fender. It's a lot wider and it comes out from the body more, so that basically means nothing happens. When it goes in, it just goes in, doesn't touch anything at all. All of these modifications mean that it's very different looking, and if you notice, it's got a lot more aggressive hunkered down stance. That's because not only is it 3 inches higher, it's also 6 inches wider. So getting into mall car parks is something you can now forget about, and getting into most width restricted areas, also forget about that. In fact, you have to be really, really careful driving this thing. But drivability as a whole, as you'll see, isn't too affected by this. So that was the front, and it's equally as complex when you get to the rear. So as you can see, we've got another fiberglass composite fender here. These are actually made by a company called Fiberworks, and they make fenders for just about any truck. So F-150, Silverado, and Ram. And all these do is basically increase the coverage over the tire, so the tire doesn't stick out too much. And the reason you want to do this again is so that the tire doesn't hit the fenders, because in a stock car, it'll just hit the fender and burst, which is a bad thing. So again, beadlock wheel from Raceline, and in here we've got another shock. But again, we don't need that much shock in the back, because there's not that much weight in the back. You're not going to be taking your IKEA purchases into the desert, although you could if you were so inclined. But basically a 2.6-inch shock from Prodigy with a reservoir and a progressive coil. So what the progressive coil means is that most coils are a fixed rate. So what that effectively means is that when you hit a stiffer bump, it behaves the same. when this hits a stiffer bump, the suspension effectively gets stiffer, so it becomes softer the harder you take the hits, which is a nice thing. It's all, after that, it's all pretty much stock. You've got, well, there's stuff I can show you, but it's difficult to show you. The entire arms have been changed as well. The upper and lower control arms that basically control the movement of the truck. So they're bigger, beefier, stiffer, to take the abuse of running really hard in the desert. A lot of clever stuff that you can't see, but rest assured, this is a very well thought out kit. So you're not going to have too many issues. Now, if we're looking at the back of the truck, has anything been changed? Not hugely. Still, the stock bumper has been sprayed with some sort of rubberized paint, bed liner spray that just makes it very resistant to like rocks and stone chips, because you'll be traveling quite hard. Other than that, they've just painted the tail letters Ram red for the Baja edition. Everything's red, and there's a Baja sticker. Other than that, it's fine. And if you look inside here, despite having the fiberglass fenders, you actually haven't lost any space at all in the bed. There is, however, a lot of sand. So that's about it from the exterior of the car. It's pretty impressive. It makes it look really beefy and really tough. And the interior, well, it's pretty much a stock Ram SLT, but let's just check it out anyway. So there isn't really much point talking about this car, the exterior, although I think it is really awesome what they've done. It looks amazing, like a sort of mini proto Baja truck. But let's take a quick look at the interior and see what's happened with the car. Have they changed anything? And the answer is no, because you don't need to. This is a basic SLT model, so that's like the middle car. The base one is the it's actually the Workman or the Tradesman, and the top end is the Laramie. This is the middle one, but if you can get a Laramie, I suppose you can fit the same kit to it. Laramie would just be more expensive, but you get leather interior, you get a center console. So this is actually a C6 seat car. There's actually a seat under here and a bin underneath. There's lots of useful places to keep your pots and things. You can keep cell phones down here. There's actually even a tray there to keep cell phones. It's all very, very good, very, very organized. As much as my wallet and a bottle, 2 bottles of water, more pockets. I mean, somebody at RAM has really thought about the pocket situation. And there's even a little thing here to like fly out and hit people in the face when you're going fast in dunes. Otherwise, pretty stock standard. Uconnect 8.4 system, climate, not climate control, because again, this isn't the top optional. So regular AC with fan speed and temperature and so on, and very little buttons here. So there's traction control, tow haul, and parking sensor off. But actually, we don't need the traction control button, because what we do have here is a, so I can show you a picture of this. This is actually the kill switch. So what that does is turns off the traction control, the ESP, the ABS, and the front and side airbags. Now the reason you want to do this is this car isn't really set up for the desert as it is. So you want to be able to turn this stuff off, because ABS has a nasty habit of coming back on when you're driving. And traction control in the desert needs to be set up a certain way, otherwise it's going to be intrusive. So what this does effectively turns everything off and pretty much allows you to control the car as you see fit. Now, the only problem is you should be a pretty good driver, because there is nothing to save you. This car is completely analog now. There's nothing at all. So when I hit that switch, it's you. Now, for some people, that's a good thing. For some people, that's a bad thing. Some people need the traction aids, and when you're on rock and stuff, it helps. But generally, it's easier to drive in the sand, because when you have traction control on, stability control on, the car is constantly trying to stop the car because it thinks the car is losing grip, so it hits the brakes. When actually you just want to be able to get a little bit of slip, keep the wheels moving. And when the wheels move, you have traction, because you actually are spinning the sand and floating on top of it, which is why it will be deflated. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that to on. And as you can see, everything turns off. You got the ABS turns off, the stability control turns off, stability control, the seat airbags turn off, and basically everything's good. I've deflated to 0.8 psi. Oh, all lights are going, the lights are going, service airbags, everything's off. It's actually a good thing the dealer does it. There are actually 4 different systems to turn off, but this one switch turns everything off. So 0.8 bar equates to about 10-12 psi. So now I'm just going to take off and I'm going to put it into 4-wheel drive. The point out is down here. And because it's a on-demand system, the light clicks on and it's completely automatic, nothing at all to do. So in normal Jeep, you're going clunk and you're actually moving a physical lever, but in this car, it's all electronic. And now let's switch the drivetrain into D. So I'm just going to drive in D for the first bit. And hopefully everything's not going to, I'm just going to take it easy, because it's a bit of bumpy ground and my support car, you know, it might get stuck. And we're on some very small, tight dunes. So I just want to show you what the agility is like on these normal bumpy dunes. And this is our terrain most people are used to, but it's got so much travel, there's so much approach and departure angle that it's no problem at all. And the locks fire just to make sure you don't fall out of the car. So in case you're wondering where we are, this is the dune called Fire, near the former Fire tea shop, and we're heading back towards the 2nd of December cafeteria. Yes, we go from cafeteria to cafeteria in the Middle East. So this is a flat pit, and the automatic gearbox, it's a ZF 8-speed. It's not designed for the desert. In fact, this whole truck is not designed for the desert. But I have to be honest with you, it's an incredible piece of work the boys from Trading Enterprises have done. I know it's a bolt-on kit, but it's a fair amount of cutting, welding, and grinding to make sure everything fits properly. It's definitely not bolt-on, bolt-off. So you want the reassurance of a dealer backing you. Hitting some flat bits. Or the temptation is to put the hammer down, but you know what? I'm just going to take it easy to show you how poised the ride is. Now, it looks like it's bumpy, but it's just floating on the dunes. The front shocks are soaking it all up, and the back shocks with their progressive rate coils not kicking out. The car is very, very composed. I could do the whole thing in two-wheel drive, but then it'll be sort of crazy and wild. And you know what? Maybe I'll do that. Oh, look, camels. Camels. Which means now I have to wait for the camels to pass. Okay, all these blessed camels have finally passed us. There was a lot of them. There was quite a few of them. So there's never things never goes according to plan. All right, so I'm turning the rotary control into D. And I'm going to go up this hill. I'm putting the electronic gear shift into 2 so it doesn't shift too much. And let's see how it does. Ram Baja. Whoa, 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 whoa. This thing is fun, capital F fun. Oh, holy moly. Oh, this is, whoa, whoa, don't fly off. This truck has been jumped, but I am not going to be the one to repeat it. So I'm just going to put it into D again. It's my, in case you're wondering what that is, that's my camera case loading, sliding around in the back, so don't worry about it. So I'm just going to go at a pretty good clip now. We're doing about nearly 50 kilometers per hour, just to show you how this truck behaves. And it just sort of undulates with the terrain. It's the thing people don't realize is you don't want your suspension very, very stiff. You want it actually kind of soft to be able to soak it up. So it's stiff, but the stiffness translates into softness when you're riding because it just soaks up all the thing, because it slows down as it goes up. So, ooh, that was a lot faster than I expected it to be, but okay. So this is quite a long bit. We call it the racetrack because people with good suspension can go really fast, and people with lots of testosterone can also go very fast. Okay, you need to go up a bit of speed, bit of speed, bit of speed, and no problem at all for the mighty Ram Baja. Only a 400 horsepower engine. This is a stock 5.7, absolutely no changes, not even a catback, not even an intake, but it's plenty powerful enough. I do think that on road, obviously with the bigger tires and the fairly heavy suspension bits, you lose a little bit of performance on road. So compared to a regular stock car, you lose maybe 10-15%, but it's worth it, man. The traction and grip off-road is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, here we are. Hope you can see this. This is just a lovely view. Lovely, lovely view. Now, I should talk about the things that a Ram is meant to do versus what the Baja is designed to do. So the Ram is not designed to be an off-road vehicle. No surprises. It's not an off-road car. It's designed to haul goods and cargo. Whereas a Jeep is designed to do this kind of thing, so there's lots of articulation. By putting this fancy suspension, all we've done is pull that capability back. However, that does not turn this into a Jeep. This is, I repeat, not a Jeep. A Jeep will still go into some really hairy rocks places and things that, you know, a car like this wasn't designed to do. So and the same applies to the dunes. Now you see all these big dunes, I can go in them, but I'm pretty experienced, I like to think. And you need to pick your angle. That's the line you take across the dune, because if you take a really silly line, you're just going to get hung up because it's so long. There's like, it's a 140-inch wheelbase. It's a bit bonkers. So you will get hung up. Basically, the person who buys this should know what he's buying. This is a high-speed vehicle. So this is a high-speed bit section here, and I am going to show you now what high-speed feels like. High speed. 4,000, 5,000 RPM. Big whoops. No problem at all for the Baja. Oh. Hitting the straights. Let's go. My foot actually bounced off the pedal. That's how fast I went. We're going sideways. Oh, whoa. Doing about 100. No problem at all for the Baja. Can you see how much it's jumping? Can you see how composed it is? Although I'm being jerked around quite a bit, so I'm just going to slow it down now and show you what. I think you have to be careful out in the dunes so that you come to a very sudden stop and a sudden drop. But hey ho. We've lost the camera. Now that our camera foible has been repaired, let's get back on the road. The mighty Baja destroyed a GoPro, which is saying something. So let's do some rubbery bits here. I'm actually going to limit it into 4th gear so it doesn't get too hairy. We'll kick up some serious rooster tails in 2-wheel drive, but I want to promote safe driving, so let's do it in 4. Ooh, there's a bumper. That's somebody who got it wrong. That's not us. Ooh, see, that's the kind of crest that you can get hung up on in this thing, but most people will be fine. Ooh, bumps, faster, and then you see how it just soaks it up. Got to hold onto the wheel a bit, but yeah. Luggage everywhere, luggage. It was so much fun. 7 years and I never get bored of the desert. Never ever get bored of it. And this truck is just such a gigantic Tonka toy. I mean, you hear the big growl of the V8. The transmission's really good actually, the 8-speed auto. Never designed for the desert, but guess what? No problem at all. I mean, it's just so stable. I can put this thing and place it, and the brakes, which are just stock brakes. Now power, definitely a little bit of a deficit with all the weight, but you know what? You can see how it's doing. I'm just averaging about 60 here, and I'm just going to go for it. See how fast I can go. I can go very fast indeed. 80. Oh, I'll probably slow up about 90 because I'm coming up to a dune, but that's the trouble. The dunes get in the way of my fun. But overall, a really impressive vehicle. I've driven a lot of modified cars. I've driven Raptors, and the Raptor is great, but this is better. This is better than the Raptor. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to say it's better than a Raptor, no question, because you can go faster and the ride is better. The Raptor gets a bit stiff on road because they've tuned it for the Middle East. This car, no problem at all. You can use it every single day. Ooh, let's not wipe its nose. Remember, this is somebody's car. Sorry, future owner. Sorry. I'm following a sort of a vague track here, but honestly, most people just go straight. Oh, God. It's a bit of a knock to the steel bumper, but no problem at all. It's steel. Pretty thick bash plate. Let's go up. Man, this thing is insane. How it climbs and just keeps, the power just keeps coming. This is the thing with the Jeep. In a Jeep, you'd be in 1st or 2nd gear. Here, I'm in 3rd gear, high range. And a Jeep as well, the difference is why you wouldn't get a Jeep do this. Because 2-door Jeeps and 4-door Jeeps suffer a stability problem of over 100 kilometers per hour off-road. So you would really start to have issues with stability. And at high speed, that's the last thing you want. FJs are a little bit better, but even FJs, the best thing to do is put a long travel suspension system on that. But that again, you're looking at 40,000 dirhams for a total chaos or Camberg system. So if you want to go fast in the desert, if you want to go everywhere, get a Jeep, get an FJ. If you want to go fast, you want a truck, baby. You want a truck. You want this truck. Oh, I want it so bad. I wish I had lots of money so I could just buy it. I wish I had lots of money. But then again, maybe there's a way to do this and get close, if not necessarily the same. Maybe there is a way. I guess I got to find out, because to be honest with you, this drive has changed me. I'm transformed me. I love driving fast in the desert. I understand why Emiratis do it. It's so much fun. Just checking we're still recording sound. Yes. I get it now. I get the speed thing. Before I was always like, desert, be careful. No, hoon about. Have fun. It's the last place you can go crazy. You can go fast. You can go wild. Sensibly. But I want this. You might even say I need it. So I think, against my better judgment, I'm going to have to get me one of these. I'm going to have to get myself a Ram. Maybe not the Baja. And maybe you're thinking this car is very expensive. The camera's fallen off again. So I've had enough really of the camera falling off. Ruddy Dragon Mart GoPro mounts. But I think I've proved the point. I think this is a pretty impressive vehicle. It's a very fast vehicle in sand. It's very composed, very compliant. I personally take it over 120 kilometers per hour on the sand. And the best part about it is when you get on back on the road, it doesn't squeak, it doesn't rattle, doesn't shake. It feels, in fact, just as composed as a regular Ram. So overall, 2 thumbs up. It's a lot of money, and I know a lot of you are thinking it's really expensive, but at the end of the day, it does what it says in the tin. So whether you think that's worth it is up to you. Only you can make that decision. But as a toy, it's a hell of a thing. It's the cheapest way to get into sort of a big, massive 6-seat off-road buggy. And I can recommend it. I mean, I can't recommend it enough. I want it. That's the biggest recommendation I can say. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and all the rest. And see you next time in the sand.